All right, Guru Nation, we are live. I hope everywhere. Instagram, Instagram's making it difficult, but I think actually, yeah, you have to wait
Yeah.
like 3 more seconds, but you get on Instagram too,
Nice.
or 5 more seconds.
Here's show me how to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we gotta fix your page, but we can definitely do that.
hmm
So Ashley Margo, the world's famous
Oh, okay.
Ashley Margo. It's been a
Hot
while
minute.
since we did a podcast, like just one on one,
Yeah, it's been a long time.
not a Latino in Research one or a
Or
SOS.
SOS or anything else, whatever else we're doing.
Yeah, whatever else we're doing, which we got a lot. But well, uh, resumes. It's the hot
Yes.
topic because
Yeah.
everyone right now, well, not everyone, but there's a lot of people
hmm
looking for jobs. There's a lot of people that have been let go. The economy is not necessarily in the
In the
best
hot
shape,
market. Yeah.
and it's not looking like it's going to get better. I mean, there's certain areas that are doing good,
Yeah.
and there's others that are not. Um, I don't know, but there's like the NIH cuts laid off a lot of people. That broke off into the academic medical centers.
hmm
The CROs have been laying people off.
Yeah.
Remember
hmm
back when you worked for a CRO?
it's already been a year, so I can say it. PPD Thermo Fisher.
Wait, it's been a year? I
Yeah,
feel like
it's
it's
been
been a
like
lot more than.
about 2 years in July.
Okay, 2 years. Yeah,
In
that
July,
sounds more
yeah,
like it.
yeah,
All right, I was about to say.
yeah.
Yeah, but now you're at a smaller
Boutique.
mid-sized biotech,
I'm
maybe.
mid-size now. Yeah, when I joined, it was
Yeah.
about like boutique, small, but now it's grown. So
And with
yeah.
the CRA and CRC Academy, you are the resume expert in chief.
hmm Yes, and then
And
teaching other classes and other topics as well.
yep. And
hmm
so, one research job, like any job that's open. Oh, let me open this with a story about Patient Ace
Okay.
because we just hired for Patient Ace.
hmm Oh, did you post about it? I saw that. It was.
Yeah, I
I really
did.
liked that. I thought that was interesting.
There was a lot of people that I missed it too, but I'm not looking
Mhm.
for a job.
Yeah.
I mean, in my defense, I have to think if I would have not missed it had I been looking. I don't know. If I'm gonna be honest, I probably would have
Mhm.
missed it too.
Yeah, most people, I do talk about that to the students a lot. There's definitely things about being very passive and being in a rush,
Yeah.
how you'll miss a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, go on for those that haven't heard it.
Well, LinkedIn user. So we're gonna get into project managers, but hold on. Let me tell the story. So lots of applicants, and my boy Ron, put the post on Indeed as well, and he got a bunch of people coming through, and then he created the ad. So he decided, you know what, I'm gonna put like secrets in here, and he didn't even really tell me anything.
hmm
He was just like, yeah, I have the ad out, share the link on LinkedIn. So I did, without knowing there's really any hidden things. Like,
hmm
I didn't even listen to what he was telling me. I was like, cool, there's probably a lot of people that would work. So a bunch of people applied. Only like 20% completed the whole thing because the part of it was to upload your resume. And then only like 5%, no, not even 5%, like 6 people from 1,000 total uh, found the secret word. There was like a secret word that was not hidden or anything.
hmm
It was just like on the front, like, and even
Like
in
a
bold.
request or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like put this word in your comment section. And man, I mean, only 6 or so did, and one of them was excellent, Alexis Reese. Which, by the
Oh,
way,
nice. Alexis Reese.
yeah, I didn't even tell you, but she's a CRA Academy alumni,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
had nothing to do with it. Nothing. I did not try to hook her up or anything. She
Mhm.
earned it on her own, and I think
Good.
she's starting in a few weeks. But
Oh, nice.
she posted
Congratulations,
on
Alexis.
LinkedIn, so I could talk about it. But
Awesome.
yeah. So what does that show you? As somebody who works with candidates way more often than I do.
Yeah. I mean, also, on the defense where I've also been on the other hiring end where I'm interviewing. Um, you know, that is something that we do take a look at. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing the same thing on the job descriptions, but that is the thing. I mean, I've told a lot of students as well as outside clients that, when you're applying to a job, especially if you are in a space or a mindset of I have to hurry up, I have to get a job going and all of that, which I mean, understandably, right? Especially right now, a lot of people have bills to pay, have things to do. But not so much in the sense that there might be something hiding like that. I mean, you guys are a smaller, more personal company, right? But these bigger companies won't necessarily do that. However, I do feel that what happens, and I've seen this, is where somebody will, not putting all their eggs in one basket. They're applying to multiple different positions, right? Because you can be a CTM, but you're, in a rush and you really want to roll. So you're applying to CRAs, maybe even lower level RSM roles, anything really just to kind of get a paycheck going and, hopefully get your foot back, like get back on into in the industry, right? In these cases, some people tend to do a templated resume. So they'll take their main resume, they'll copy it with the different titles and hone in on the action words or things like that that pertain to that particular role, that are more strength for that role. And they'll be applying like crazy. And sometimes they'll slip in the wrong resume. Sometimes it'll be the same company and they'll be applying, and they'll forget to switch it out and apply with, an old resume. So these things happen, it's a real thing. And I'm even, sad to say that happened to me at the very beginning. But, you need to be careful. You need to take your time. It's better to, take your time rather than potentially waste an opportunity, right? Because I can tell you right now, if I wasn't in the industry and I was barely getting my foot in the industry, I would absolutely love to work with you and in this company, right, for AI and working within research. I mean, it's a really great opportunity, especially where the industry is going in regards to AI. So it's an awesome opportunity. And for those 1,000 people that applied, I'm sure it's just more of boom, 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 boom. Let's go, let's go, let's
Well, in
go.
fairness too,
Yeah.
the numbers weren't that bad. It was like somewhere like 1,000 clicked, and
Okay.
like 20 completed it, and from those
Mm.
20, like 5 or 6 actually had
Okay,
the
well, that
keyword.
ratio is way better.
Yeah,
That's a way better ratio for sure. But still, it's again, I just think that right now everybody is. I mean, I think it's safe to say, especially for those that are looking, it's because of the way things are seeming right now, are in fight or flight mode, right? And trying to cover as much ground as possible in a short period to ensure faster opportunities come or things like that, right? So just taking your time, being mindful. I mean, even on the end of you're not necessarily reading the description and there being something secret inside, you want to be mindful of the job description and the different strength words they're focusing on in the industry, right? So say your resume is from your previous job more geared towards data review, data QA, all those kinds of things, but this other potential role that is a similar title, but they're more focused on regulatory or they're more focused on other things, right? You want to take your time to read that, because if somebody does take their time and alters their resume a little bit to highlight those strengths more, granted that they still had those skills, they were just, doing more focus on one or the other, this is going to help you move forward, right? So it's really important that you take the time to review the job description and maybe even do a little background check on the company. Maybe that gives a little viewpoint on what their overall focus is. And you applying to that role is going to make you a part of their team, right? So you want to ensure that you embody what their team overall is focused on. So,
well, before we get to the rest of the stuff from the show, the episode, LinkedIn user is saying recruiters are only hiring CPMs, so certified project managers that have only been a CPM at a CRO before. Is
I mean, I
this
think that's
true?
very vague. I mean, no, I mean, I could tell you back before all this happened when I was at PPD Thermo Fisher, there was actually a period where project managers were actually slowly getting dropped, right? So I really think it comes to what's going on in the season. I mean, it sounds horrible to say, but I truly think that that's just a very vague blanketed thing to say. I mean, also again, if your focus is in project management or if your focus is in CRA or if it's on CTM, your mind, your nose, all those things are going to be really encompassed in that space. So you're going to definitely have, I would say, a tunnel vision into that. And also, depending on where you're working or who you're connected with and where they work, it's going to be tunneled into that. So unless you really have a full macroscopic view, then those are, again, I wouldn't blanket those kind of comments because you're going to discourage other people. And I can tell you for a fact where I'm at, I can't really speak to, where I'm at. For whatever reasons, that is not the case at all. We're hiring at every level. So but I am at a sponsor, so not at the entry like no experience level, right? But every other level, every other department. So again, very blanket response, and I wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah, well, there's people that are frustrated.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Understandably so. So okay,
Mhm.
we like for this patient ACE ad, we didn't even really look at resumes. It was just a test to
Mhm.
see if you would upload it. And I asked Ronick. I mean, we did. He looked at all of them that were uploaded, but I asked Ronick, like, what's the point of putting that there? And he said, well, if you're too lazy enough to even upload your resume, it shows that you're just applying to like 100 jobs, and
Yeah.
you don't really care so much about this one, which fair enough. And for our company, we're not hiring in waves. We're hiring like one person and that's it for a while
Yeah.
until we hire someone else. But for the traditional jobs, I think first impressions matter, and
Yeah.
your resume might be your first and only shot. So
Agree.
you teach the students this stuff all the time. I guess
Mhm.
what can you say about how to make it stand out when they're getting one job is getting like 300 resumes?
For sure. So I also believe that there's not just a resume, there's an application process. So you can have your resume, you can have your cover letter, you can have your reference form. All these things, should be in unison. They should be similar looking. They should just kind of like, if you at a job, right, and you're trying to, let's say, get a new client, you're going to send over a portfolio. The documents need to look very similar. They have to be formal. Again, first impressions, you're not able to visually show yourself and also not able to verbally represent yourself either, right? So it's just pure documentation. So naturally, yeah, presentation is everything. Now, I do think that LinkedIn kind of meets right hand in hand there, but given just resume, the only way I really feel that can really make you different, I mean, outside obviously everyone's experience is genuinely going to be different, but exposure wise, I think that that's where a cover letter comes in. Now, the thing is, cover letters are really tricky. They can be that one thing that really help you, but if you have a bad template or you're approaching it wrong, very, very personal, very in that fine mix between personal and professional, if you go off those bounds, it can actually really hinder you, right? So this is why
Do
I
you
think
think
most.
cover letters are better for small businesses if you apply to a small business?
I think for both, to be quite honest, I
Oh,
think
okay.
both small and big, because ultimately, what it's just the same thing as whoever's on the interviewing side, on the other side, they're going to use all the resources they have. This is why resumes are important. This is why LinkedIn is important, because if you go hand in hand, this is what I tell your students, right? They're in the academy, they're already, a step above because they have the training now. They also have the internship, which is already leveling them up above anybody that doesn't have any one-on-one direct experience, right, with an actual study. But outside of that, ultimately, they are going to, at some point, especially if a good chunk of them are in California or New York, they're going to be competing against each other more than likely, right? Especially if a job's remote and it's in the same level that they're trying to apply to. So I was like, you have to think outside the box in that space. What's going to make you different? Your story, your personal story, right? And so the only way that they can actually extract that information is if you provide it to them. So, you have your LinkedIn, which maybe some opportunity there. Your LinkedIn is more for a space where I like to call fluff, right? Everything outside of your resume that isn't necessarily super important, but it gives some good coverage. Like, maybe you volunteered 2 years ago, kind of gives you a little bit more exposure that you're well rounded. Your resume is more professional. Now, your cover letter is the in between. I feel like it's a really good place to not talk about you professionally, but talk about you as a person, so that this hiring manager or talent acquisition specialist, whoever is going to be interviewing you, that more than likely knows your team or is part of your team that they're going to be hiring you for, they already know their team. They already know the ins and outs of each of their personalities. So they want to get to know who they're going to be potentially hiring, because everybody knows that when you ask questions, it's all smiles. Almost sometimes, if the person's not a great interviewer, they could be robotic question and answer, right? So you need to be able to give something that steps out of that zone. And the cover letter offers that opportunity, if you do it correctly, to be able to speak to you as an individual and your personal characteristics, right? Reasons why you're making this change, what motivates you, right? And not the corny stuff either. This is also why it's good to have somebody review it. But it's just, thinking
What
outside
would
of
be
the
corny?
box.
Like, what do you think would be corny?
What I like to tell people is, say say for example, they already came from the clinical industry, and let's say they were actually hands-on with patients, right? And then now, they're going into CRA role into pharma, and they say, I really just want to help people, and this motivates me a lot, and I want to make a difference, right? The reason why I find that personally, obviously, this could be controversial for other people, so mind it. This is my own personal opinion, but when you have hands-on experience in the clinical industry and you're going into a role that literally just deals with documentation, you never touch, see, or interact with the patient, the person behind that interview is going to be like, well, that makes no sense. Why are you, yes, you're in the back end of it, but your work really is far, 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 far end from the actual impact. I mean, if everybody knows, at least me personally as a CRA, when you grind that job for a year, the reason why there's burnout is not just because you're traveling and a lot and all those things. It's because it's also eventually it becomes kind of hard to link the purpose, the overall purpose of where that data is going when you're just literally looking at a screen all the time or looking at paper all the time, right? As opposed to, and somebody that's been in the clinical industry, when you are walking up and down a clinic, walking up and down a unit, you are handling patients, you're talking, you're interacting, you're getting to visually see what your day-to-day does to help somebody, even if it's as simple as bringing them a medication or water, right? Like there's actual daily purpose of give and take there, as opposed to just harnessing, data, right? And so
Or like jargon, or like,
exactly. And then,
yeah, okay.
company culture and things that are political or politics, not literal politics, but, company politics, everything that is outside of real purpose driven things that you can visually see for yourself, right? That does become an issue. And I do talk to the students about that, right? Like you need to be clear about where you're going and don't just say things that sound nice that you think would be nice. I feel that education, college, high school, but specifically college, I think that we get trained to be like, you need to have these classes, you need to say these kinds of things for scholarships, these kinds of things. I feel like we get conditioned, but in the real world, you're dealing with real world people that want to deal with other real world people that will do a good job. Right.
We
And
want
so,
outcomes,
yes.
is what
And
we
and
want.
I mean, I know that some other people prefer very like smiley people. I have worked with people that are like, hey, if you're not always happy go lucky, that's fine. But as long as you do your job and you're honest about what you can and cannot do,
Hmm.
so that the team can work well together, right? So, like a no BS approach kind of a thing. And so when you kind
Yeah.
of read that up front, I feel like it's less genuine. Not that it's not a nice thing. It's still nice, but I think that when you're interviewing or when you're reading it, it becomes more authentic, right? And I think right now authenticity is key, especially in an industry where it's getting flooded, right? And not just flooded because applicants, but flooded because people are needing to readjust, right? And
Yeah.
so, you need to be authentic. You need to stick out somehow and being yourself, whether it's through like virtual or through verbal or written word, whatever. It just has to come out, and I mean, for me, if that's what I would be looking for if I was looking at applicants. And so,
Well,
yeah,
we got some questions, but
yeah.
really quick to close out this segment. What's the
Mhm.
biggest mistake you see people making on their resumes,
Uh,
specifically for clinical research?
for sure. So, job description. Two things that happen. Either one, they copy and paste, which I feel like that's dying down already. I don't think people are getting smarter and not doing that anymore. But I think the other thing is they're just they're just literally writing down what their day-to-day tasks are, which is good. But again, you need to think critically, especially for CRAs. Like if you are going to be applying to this role, and you read the job description and they are very, very intense on quality assurance and all these kinds of things, If you're going to be dealing with, global team, all that kind of stuff, you want to focus on four things at least. You want to have one job description, bullet point, focusing on your aspect of QA, your knowledge on QA, and preferably, even if any of those previous roles that you had that weren't research related, you still want to keep that routine, like at least one bullet point showcasing that you did a version of QA, whether it's your actual role or you were just overseeing your own work and, dotting all T's and crossing all T's and dotting all I's. An aspect of communication, right? And what levels of communication? I think that's one of the bigger ones too, where yeah, communicate with team. Okay, but if you're going to be working with a global team, now let them know how far does that communication go? Is it just your colleagues? Is it your manager? Do you communicate with the CEO? Like, because at every level is a different form of communication sometimes. And so giving that hiring manager a viewpoint of how far that experience expands lets them know that you either will, potentially could be, or will not be, let's say shy or a little hesitant coming up at front talking to this big global team because you'll be maybe a little bit skittish about titles, right? Because you've only really communicated with maybe lab techs and whatever, however that may seem, right? So there's that. Another one I would say is an aspect of teaching, mentoring, and or form of training, right? Because in research, regardless of what role you're at, you're going to train somebody, whether it's a site, whether it's CRA, PI, an actual colleague that's coming in to your level at a CRO or sponsor level. Or somebody new that is just kind of coming in and doing foreshadowing, whatever it might be. The point being is there's going to be a form of that. And so being able to showcase that you have knowledge of that, you've experienced, and you don't mind getting your feet wet and taking lead in that way, that's good.
Okay, we got some questions. So, person was saying I should be more specific. Hiring CPMs at a CRO. My experience has been they're only hiring CPMs who have worked directly with a CRO.
Yeah.
What's a bridge clinical research role between CRC and CPM? A mix of back end and clinical setting.
A mix of back end and clinical
I
setting.
think coordinators are project managers. I
Yeah,
got this
they
from
are.
Brad.
Yeah.
But like ours are now using Monday, which is
We
I
need to
love it
use
too.
Monday.
I love it too. Um, we got some interesting announcements with patient A soon, but right now we're using Monday, and it's amazing. But our CRCs, I feel like they are project managers. When Brad made that post, I thought he was spot on. But I think a CTM, not a CTM, in-house CRA would be like more of a bridge.
Yeah, so I will say that, in my experience when I was at PPD Thermo Fisher, going the program management route, they had an assistant PM route, right? An assistant or associate PM route. Never was it CTM and then to project management, because when you talk about ClinOps in the CRO space, you're going to have a different variation of exposure when it comes to that. Clinical trial manager is going to be managing their study team. A project manager, depending on whether you're in a big CRO sponsor or small CRO and small sponsor, they're going to get a lot more viewpoint. They're probably going to work a little bit with legal, a little bit with higher up management, like higher up management, to get an overview, macro view, and plan accordingly to that, right? So CTMs definitely get a viewpoint of that when it comes to the study itself, but there's definitely a lot on the back end when it comes to project management. So I guess when you get into a CRO role, I would suggest, once you've already gotten the job, don't if you're applying for another role, don't ask them about another role on top of that interview. But when you get the job, I would definitely ask about the pathways when you have a line manager, and find out what that looks like. Usually they have you shadow somebody in that role or in the role right under it, which would be the next role up, and then go from there.
Okay, we have a few more. So getting good ones. And then Instagram, I'll put yours up separately somehow.
Oh, my personal? I don't know. We'll see.
Hi Ashley, how do you condense? Oh no, on mine.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
have it going in a separate tab, so I'm
Oh,
looking
okay,
there
okay,
for
cool.
Instagram questions. But hey Ashley, how do you condense experience and things like multiple roles due to things outside of your control, like layoffs and or mergers and acquisitions, which is happening right now?
Condensed experience. Not so sure if I understand that, but if the way I'm seeing it is like, how would you put that on your resume? Things that are obviously outside of your control. That's, I mean, layoffs and acquisitions. First of all, you should ask your HR. They should provide you, if not, definitely ask for it. Where they, I forget the term, but it's an actual document that's stating, that your removal or your layoff, etc., was not due to your issue, but an outside reasoning, right? One that you are not privy to, right? So I would have that because it's just good documents. So when you are applying applications and it allows you to upload additional resources, you would might want to upload that if you like. But in your resume, it would be ultimately like a 2 sentence, 3 sentence thing. You put in the job description, put in, the different what your tasks and roles are, and in the summary space, detail, what exactly happened and why the brief removal, right? For whatever it might be. Those things do not hinder you, again, because it's outside your scope. These people that are hiring obviously have experience, and so they understand this industry and when those things happen. Other than when if you're laid off because you did something wrong or however it might be, then that's a whole other story, right? But in regards to just mass layoffs or acquisitions, those kinds of things, you have no control.
Yes, Sarah says, at least I think this is Sarah. Uh,
Mhm.
yes, having been a CRC, I would agree it's very similar to CPM, but with more hands-on participant task
Mhm.
clinic. I think it's like more versatile than
Mhm.
CPM. I think it's the most recession-proof job in the industry,
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree that I think,
unless you're at AMC or NIH-funded entity.
yeah,
That's different.
I do feel like private sites in general now are I mean, you've talked about it. It's like the golden era of
Golden
sites.
era,
I
yeah.
100% agree. I believe, CROs and sponsors are even doing things right now to be able to get more contact with sites and be able to work more closely and really facilitate those relationships more than ever now. Because everybody's trying to save money, everybody's trying to still be proactive, and the only way to do that is if main connects with source as good as possible. And so sites are, regardless of what people's opinions are out there, the site is a source. It's where the patient's at. It's where the data comes from. And if you don't have the site, you don't have a trial. So I think sites have always had that power, and I feel now more than ever it's being very clear. So
Okay, we have an Instagram one I can't put on the screen, but
yeah.
hello, I have a clinical research assistant experience where I work with
Mhm.
the patients, like do ECG, phlebotomy, vitals, but I never did the data or other work like that. How do I gain that experience? I would
Uh,
say if you are there, like you can do it now, but if you're obviously not there, you can go to find small clinics near you and tell them you already did that stuff.
yeah, 100%. I think, especially depending where you're at, it's really
Yeah, put where
surprising. I
you're
don't,
at. Put where you're at.
yeah, the location. There's actually a lot, I would say a lot, especially here in Texas, constant roles that are opening up for people that do that, the CTA roles. That's actually how I started. And so, you can do that and eventually build up into another role. Now, I did a quick jump in between. I went into public health. Only reason I did that was because it was with the role with UT Southwestern Medical Center, and they're really huge in research. And so I felt like if I got a role with them, and it wasn't even in research, it was in public health, but if I got a role with them, I would have their name behind me and it would kind of give some clout, I guess. And it did help. So, I was right in that move, thankfully. But yeah, you can do so much with that role. And to be quite honest, I think
And
now,
they said they're from Arizona, so you need to go. You
oh,
know how many sites there are in Phoenix?
so
You just
many.
need to go find all the small sites in Phoenix, go in person, tell them, I used to do research assistant. I know how to do all this stuff. Let me enter your data. Let me volunteer for 2 months. Let me volunteer for 1 month. They'll hire you. We just had someone stop by the clinic today. He wants to volunteer for the summer. And
Yeah,
I
perfect. There
told
you
Katie,
go.
have him come in. And in my head, I'm thinking, if he's good, I want to hire him, but I know he's going to go to med school. So, like,
Yeah.
okay, it's good to have a volunteer, but
Hmm.
this is how you're supposed to do things.
Yeah. I mean, if I was in that position, I mean, that's kind of what I did actually. So in college, At the time, I was, going prepping for medical background, and it wasn't for research, but it could have honestly been the exact same thing. I needed a few hours of experience, and it ended up coming out to 284 hours. But I literally listed out all the therapeutic areas I wanted experience in. I went on Google and I printed out, I think it was about 50 pages of the top, I think 10 or 20 clinics in the area for each therapeutic area, and I called each one literally every day, and then I set an appointment, and I called in sick, and I literally did back to back appointments, and I was able to shadow, like I said, 280 some hours, also in the OR. And I got to see a freaking, open back surgery and everything only because of that. And if
Yeah.
nobody else, there was no other students, no
It's a
nothing.
very underutilized way. I mean,
Yeah.
this kid is the second kid to walk in our office in the 4 years I've been here.
Hmm.
And the one that came before him was only 3 weeks earlier, so it's from the same school. They're telling them to go get summer work.
Yeah.
But that one, she didn't have enthusiasm at all.
She's just like,
Like, I
hey.
can tell she just showed up because they told her to, and I was like, no, no, we're not going to do this. But this one, they said he had a lot of enthusiasm. Before we get to the rest of the questions, because look,
Yeah.
I see you. I see we're going to get to these. This is
Yeah.
still about how to craft a compelling resume.
Yeah, go
So,
for it. Go for it.
what do you feel about? There's a couple questions here. Highlighting your experience or quantifying everything. So,
Yeah.
for example, enrolled 75 subjects in 6 months, or
Yes.
using
Yes.
numbers wherever possible,
Yeah, quantifying
or
is important, especially because if you're going into a role, whether it's zero or sponsor, everything they do down to even just reviewing your own your own progress as an employee is metrified. Like it's done in metrics, and you're going to even learn that much more about metrics. I already knew previously, but I definitely got a new perspective on that once I started in the CRO, and definitely now up into the
uh,
sponsor. Yeah.
so
So
quantify every from the resumes you see.
yes.
How many are actually have quantified
None,
things on
none.
them? None.
I'm always,
This is wild.
yes. And so, I mean, it never fails with students as well as outside clients. I
Wow.
always ask, I give examples too. Like, hey, for example, if you did X, Y, Z, then this would be a percentage. You don't want to talk about that percentage. Yeah, so quantifying 100%, if you can do that, definitely, because that is the language of the industry, right?
What do you mean if you can do that? These
I mean,
people
well,
need to
because
do it.
yeah, well, no, yes, but also the thing is,
We're not
if
asking, we're telling you
we're
can.
telling you, I mean, you obviously do want to make sure that if you have something to quantify, right? Because there are jobs where there's not necessarily something that you can fully break down in that space. And the thing is here is that you also don't want to somebody doesn't want to set themselves up for a question that they can't really go into detail about, right? So if
Mm.
somebody just tries to quantify just to quantify,
No,
and
no,
you're
you gotta When I was
yeah.
5, Ashley, I sold 5 roly polies in one day on my street corner in Santa
Oh,
Monica.
I sold 2 little sunflowers that I poked off the floor for $1.
You see? I bet
Yeah.
you even that would do better than having a generic resume.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's definitely a good story.
They think it's funny. They think you got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
At least you're making the recruiter laugh, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I always tell people if you can make the recruiter laugh, it's serious points there because more than likely they're even if it's the second interview and they're already bored,
Wow.
asking all the same questions. I mean, I'm just being honest, and I'm saying this too because I've been on that other end, and maybe not so much me, but I've had colleagues like, oh, I could be working
Yeah.
right now, like, so that's
Yeah, I could be
yeah.
doing this, but instead,
I'm doing
I'm
this
here
instead.
looking
Yeah.
at
So
your
yeah,
generic resume. So quantify
exactly.
everything. Okay, what about keywords and ATS optimization? So, uh, what keywords should every research resume include? And then tools to check ATS friendliness like JobScan, Teal, Resi.
That stuff personally, I'm not a huge fan of, and that's just me. I know everybody's different,
All right,
but I
talk
do
about it.
think Yeah, I do think that the strength words, like the keywords, I think that that's honestly two things. One, if you're dealing with a big organization that you're applying your resume to into their system, you naturally want to have keywords that are, resonate with the job description. So again, another reason why you should read through what you're applying to, because you want to have a way that your resume is actually matching, right? And so that is something that I definitely recommend. Having a section where you have skills or core competencies listed, and ensuring that maybe obviously not literally taking word for word, because at that point you're not necessarily being truthful, but looking at the job description, looking at the skills that you actually encompass, and you making sure that that is definitely showcased on your resume. So that would definitely be one. Another one would be for the sake of just having, um, you know, again, just overall matching whenever you're applying to a smaller company, right?
Hmm.
Matching the job description. But those other systems, I don't like them because I feel like it's very compute. I don't. Again, I think it's just preference, to be quite honest. So
Okay.
yeah.
But there's no doubt these recruiters are using tools and
Yes.
AI.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's also important to know like, know your industry, right? I think it's safe to say that the pharma industry, almost, I'm not going to say 100%, but I would say the mass majority of it happens on LinkedIn, right? If not
Wow.
on their platforms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at least from back where when I was like heavily applying, I could honestly say that like
That's
Glassdoor,
true.
Monster Trink, and all that
LinkedIn's
stuff.
really in its prime, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in its prime for sure. At least in our industry. I can't speak to the other ones, but I would say those more technical systems, I feel like that's more privy to tech companies that are really utilizing all these resources and tools. I still feel like our industry is still very behind. But for good reason too, because you can have somebody put all the right things on the application. But this is why I also love mock trial interviews that I do with your students and just in general with
Love
outside
those.
clients. I love those because I can easily tell when somebody's lying or when somebody's not fully truthful or just really bad at depicting what they bring to the
How can you
table.
tell? No
Well, because
details?
no details, but also it's like, for example, I had one recently. And this individual was saying that, oh, I really would love to be with XYZ company, because they're really heavy into bringing new technology, new medication to patients, but it was for a CRO, and we all know that a CRO is only the middleman to that in reviewing and helping collect, not actually the backbone, which is the sponsor, right? So that's how you know somebody is just stating to state it and
Word
not
salad.
word salad, yeah, or fluff, right?
Fluff.
And yeah, and again, those are, you can tell real quickly when somebody is just saying and speaking nicely and doesn't make sense. And also when they're correlating their previous experience to the role that they're applying to, you can also tell when they
Yeah.
really don't know what they're getting
It
into.
takes it takes some balls to try to lie to a job recruiter about
Yeah,
their job. Like
yeah,
they
yeah,
talk to hundreds a week. I mean, you try to lie to one of those, they end up
yeah.
hearing the same story over and over and
Yeah,
over
exactly.
again.
And not only that, but it's possible to get it through a recruiter, especially if they're with a third party company that don't really know what
Sure,
research
sure.
is. But I'm telling you, the talent acquisition specialist will sniff you out in a heartbeat. They will
Okay,
sniff you out in a heartbeat for sure. And then there's one other example I wanna give
okay.
where this individual, oh my god, I think it literally just slipped my mind. It slipped
Someone
my
was
mind.
bullshitting.
Yeah,
Well, they
there's just
bullshit a lot. We have a lot of examples.
yeah, a lot. I mean, if it
Look,
comes back, I'll tell you. But yeah,
we got some juicy comment, but
yeah.
before we wrap up this
Mhm.
section, see, I'm getting more organized on my
Good. I know. I've
prompts. This
noticed.
is, I mean, AI is really helpful.
B plus, Dan. B plus. I'll give you B
Thank
plus.
you. What's one underused phrase or action verb you recommend?
uh,
Or do you not care about that?
I don't care about it.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think anybody can go on thesaurus.com and just say, give me 5 of the best of this word and just put it in there.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
in our industry, if you're using our acronyms,
Hmm.
like it's kind of like I read a post on LinkedIn, and I've been into philosophy lately, and it
Yes,
got
I
me
know.
thinking about it because they basically said the acronyms is the language of fluency for our industry. So
Yes.
by using them, everyone hates them more or less, but by using
Hmm.
them, you're signaling that you speak the language,
Yeah.
and the only worst thing you can do is use them incorrectly, to try to like
Yes.
lie, right?
Yes.
Or maybe not use them at all. So I think you should study up on
Hmm.
the industry, and uh, so
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm with you there
I
too.
wouldn't even say, because for me, I feel like, uh, you can read, you can study like the different meanings and things like that. I personally think that reading your newsletters, and I'm not just saying that because we're on this podcast. I've told you, I feel like your
Hold
newsletters have
on,
gotten,
I got a good. Yeah, the newsletters
but
on LinkedIn for sure. I put in some good work for those, but
mhm,
this, I hear it's pretty decent.
it
Like
is very decent.
you got practical, no bullshit, written in 2019, which is still applicable today. None of it is outdated, or we would have
Mm-mm.
written
Yeah, I,
something
I
else.
read your I read your book right before I started getting into the industry. I won it for free on
Ah, that's
Instagram.
right.
So, yeah,
Oh, and
yeah.
Damien got one. You're welcome, man.
There you
You're
go.
welcome.
Yeah, definitely acronyms are really important. I think also just you know, it's so difficult to kind of like just pinpoint one. This is why I do think 100%. It's really important to have somebody look over your resume. Not because obviously, like I do it. Obviously,
Somebody named
that's.
Ashley Margo.
No, I mean, yes, I do that as a service, of course. I mean, you don't have to go with me. My
No,
thing
you
is
guys
just.
have to. Well, it's mandatory they go with you.
it's
All right, let's go to these
yeah,
questions.
go
Yeah,
for it. Go for
forget.
it.
No, they have to go to you, actually. All right. We use Slack and Monday. I like it, and CTM requires CRA experience. I
Yes, it
agree.
does.
Uh, oh, this is so. Why is there a salary so different between coordinator and CPM?
Because CRC, you have to think again, you got to kind of project outwards, right? So a site encompasses what the physician is doing the day to day, the patients, and then whatever admin use under the clinical research coordinator, right? So it's as big as that company is, right? It's your viewpoint of that particular company. Now, when you're talking about a project manager, now depending on the scope of that project manager and how it works for that particular CRO or sponsor, that project manager is not just focusing on that one clinical study team or just two or three clinical study teams. They are overseeing or assisting with multiple things that are going on that are interactive, like with regulatory aspects of legal and how that pertains to the regulatory and how that affects the other studies, and how does that move forward with like upper executive, so that it's a way larger, broader scope. You also have to be definitely versed in the industry outside of just the clinical research site, right? You have to be versed in sometimes even laws that are, outside of the country, because usually when you're
Okay.
in a CRO project manager, CRO or sponsor, you're going to be dealing with global teams from all over the world, right? And how that works and what are the different timelines and what are the things you have to think about. It's like project management on steroids, pretty much. You are thinking 20 times at once and how everybody's intertwined, interacted, and how they have to be coming in at a certain time. It's very different from a site. Now, a site is a really great starting point. It's definitely not to say that it's not difficult at a site. It definitely is. Dealing with a bunch of people and running different types of timelines and things like that is always hard. But I will promise you that you will be putting more hours. You'll be way more stressed, and even dealing with people that are that much more strong-willed. That's an easy way to say it. And so you will definitely
Mm,
get paid the level that you're going to have to be dealing with, for sure.
okay. Uh, there's more questions.
Yeah, go
So
for it. Lay 'em on me.
my thoughts on why. So I think the CRC CPM salary gap was so different from
Hmm.
CRO and sponsor to sites was because the sponsor and CROs have more money to spend. The sites have to be very pragmatic.
Hmm.
But as we have consolidation, we're in the golden era.
Hmm.
I do think that gap will close. And what's going to help further close that gap, unfortunately, is global outsourcing. So,
Yeah, that's
you know,
gonna that's
Zero's
a
moving. Latin
given.
America's insane. Actually, Mexico
Yeah,
City was insane.
yeah.
Project managers everywhere. We had our site selection visit last week. The monitor came from Mexico City. I did a video with
Wow.
him.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
they're using the
Mexico,
global
sexy.
outsource.
Yeah, no, Mexico. I think Mexico and India are givens, and we're going to see a lot of that coming in. And
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I think that's also where it's like being strategic about where you're going is important. I think people need to really, I personally, like me and myself, step back from thinking and worrying too much about titles and what that means and where does that sit in the quote unquote hierarchy. I think once you've had exposure in all three levels, site, zero, and sponsor, you understand that the hierarchy really doesn't matter when it comes to job security, when it comes to
Yeah.
length of, sustainability, right? It really doesn't matter, and it also comes down to, I guess, what gives you more purpose and what's more fulfilling. And again, you have to have that experience to see it, I feel, but it's really
And
really clear.
we've never seen regulatory pressure like this where the administration from the president down to the FDA is pushing for cost-effective solutions.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, like from the perspective of that, we've been in the kind of the same space for quite a bit, and on the LICRN and all that stuff, what we see is not efficient in regards to like trying to get change to happen and things like that in certain areas. Like I've never necessarily been happy with the way some certain things were run, right? And so, not that I like some of these changes that are happening, but I'm keen to see where it will bring more positive change. Like because I want to see positive change in areas that this industry needs. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that we'll see some of that
Well, the
soon.
administration is pushing for more cost effectiveness, but at the same time, they're also pushing for more America first,
Yeah,
which those two things don't always go hand
yeah,
in hand.
yeah,
So it's very confusing. But
yeah.
okay, structuring the
Yes,
resume. All
yes.
right, like what about changing careers? What chronological versus functional? Tailoring for specific employers, visual
Hmm.
appeal.
Hmm.
I kind of want to go through your preferences on these things.
Okay, so first off, I'm a very the way I started my career in healthcare, I was very grateful. She annoyed me very much, but to this day I'm very grateful for her. She was
Who,
a
Monica?
no, no, no.
Ah,
I'm gonna tell her.
what's up, Monica? We love you.
No, I one of the
Judy?
very first job, one of the very first jobs I had was actually in HR in healthcare, and I was actually
Ah,
being mentored by a hospital administrator, and she was so nitpicky about applicants and their resumes,
oh,
and
they're the worst.
yeah, and it would annoy me, but now I'm very grateful she gave me that viewpoint, right? She said, first off, if it's not uniform, I don't want to look at it, because if they, as in the applicant, if they don't know how to make things look nice, just on their own, for documents that are going to determine their future, what makes you think they're going to do it for a company that is not really giving them anything like directly, right? So
Right.
she was just like, immediately gone. So I'm always telling everybody, make sure your margins are correct, make sure there is consistency, there's uniformity, the same all the way down to like the dates that you put and how you put it. I don't believe in you know functionality. I feel like if you're going to fix your just job
Form over
description,
function.
yeah, I think if you put function first, it's kind of like you're gonna have to make sure you're being very descriptive and layer it correctly when you're
So
answering
you
the
like
question.
chronological.
Yeah, yeah. So I like
I think most
chronological.
normal humans would prefer that as well.
Yeah, yeah, because it makes sense, but also because you like me personally, if I'm gonna see somebody's resume, I want to actually be able, aside from what's current, I'm always curious about how they got where they got to. I'd like to see what their very first job was, and so if they don't have their first job and it's on LinkedIn, I like to go on their LinkedIn and find them and actually see how they leveled up, because that to me
Yeah.
speaks more in depth of the individual rather than just looking at their most recent job. Now, their most recent job is really important, right? And so if your job is,
Mm,
you're a teacher and you're jumping into the industry and you don't have any internship experience, that's fine. But then you have to be that much more meticulous in how you are describing those transferable skill sets in that job description,
yeah.
right?
Well,
So
speaking of
again,
LinkedIn, when I stalk someone, if I find a few resumes I like, I'll stalk them too. I'll
yeah,
go on LinkedIn. Most entry level don't have a LinkedIn. Some
yeah,
do, but if they do, it's not active. But I'll go on their Instagram. Most are smart enough to go private. Facebook, same thing. But TikTok. But you'll be surprised on LinkedIn, you find some people and you're like, okay, this is an interesting candidate. And then you look at their activity and they don't post a lot, but everything
yeah,
they comment is negative, confrontational,
yeah,
aggressive. It's like,
yes.
wow, I'm going to bring this person in the office. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know
no, no.
about that.
I always tell your students and clients, LinkedIn, I don't care what anybody says. And I know I even have friends on here that are otherwise, but LinkedIn is a professional space. It is not your social space. Yes, it is a social platform. But if your company and your CEOs and all of them have it on there, but you don't have them on your personal platform, it's because this is professional and the other ones are social. So if this is a professional platform, I definitely feel that there is a time and space for certain things. And if you're going to touch on, intense raw topics and all that stuff, know that
Yeah.
somebody else is going to be snooping through that. And to be quite honest, even though that's not necessarily you being fully transparent, nobody's fully transparent at work, right? That's just the honest point. Most
Right.
people, you have a guard up. You do at home, what
Even
you do with your
I'm
friends.
not. And I can do
Yeah,
almost whatever I want as the
you're the
owner.
owner. Yeah,
And even
exactly.
I'm not. Jen, we got a
Exactly.
celebrity on Instagram, by the way. Jen
Yeah.
Pages, the one
Oh,
and
what's up,
only,
Jen?
who used to work at Subway
I mean, yeah,
and said
we
her IG is public. So go follow her, Jen
nice,
Pages.
nice.
We
Mine
got
is
to get
public
you on
too,
again,
but
Jen. It's been a while.
yes, we got to
Yeah,
hang
so
out at SOS.
be
It was nice.
mindful of what. Yeah, Jen's. She went to Phoenix. She came to Phoenix and thought Yuma was like down the street.
No,
And I told her,
no.
you gotta, you got a lot of driving in front of
Yeah.
you if you want to do that. But
I mean,
we got to
the
have
note
Jen
for
on again.
yeah, the note for that, I would just say stay away from politics, stay away from hot end topics, unless you're
Yeah,
going to be open, right? Meaning you
right.
are welcoming opinions and you're not getting, personal, right?
Well, yeah.
Most people aren't like that. So if you know you're not like that and you get trigger happy, don't do it. Just stay.
And stay away from politics on both sides. They're
Yes, yes,
like, I know it's generally safer to be left leaning in our industry, but there's a lot of conservative
yes,
hiring managers, business owners. They may not display that outwardly,
yes.
but for those of you going off the deep end on the left stuff too, it's not just as bad as going on the deep end on the
Yeah,
right.
and I also say that you want to everything you're doing, you're risk managing, right? You're risk managing. You don't know who's going to be looking at your applicant. You don't know if they're biased or not to their own biases, right? So, because you don't know that, you can't control that. What you can control is what is in your peer view, which is stuff that you post, stuff that you like, and all those kinds of things. And some people will say, well, then why do I have it if I have to this and that? Well, if you want a job and I can just say it like that if you want a job, but it's just more like it is what it is.
Yep.
People can be biased and they cannot be biased. You don't know who you're dealing with, so bring up your options. You stick within a space, and I know other people feel otherwise to that, and that's totally fine. But it's like I tell your students and my clients, like I am here to help ensure that you get as many opportunities as possible. The
Yeah.
opportunities that are going to come are when you show you're not biased, you're not confrontational, these things, because you're just going to come, do your job, and exit, right? You're not going to cause any type of this or that. And some people, remember, line managers, hiring managers, they've dealt with all sorts of levels, meaning they've dealt with the people that they like when they bring in, and they've also dealt when they're in and where they can cause
Yeah.
XYZ. So they know what to look for, right? And these people are experienced. And
All right, let me ask you a
yeah,
few more things
go
because
for it.
we're gonna wrap up.
Sure.
But you got like 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I got time.
I
So
know I
even if you
saw
got to go past it.
Ajax back there.
Oh, you did?
Sonic would have been in here if I didn't lock the door. But okay. Typos, instant
Oh
rejection.
God.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
patient Ace, we just went through this.
Yeah.
We did an interview. Somebody went through, I told you, that whole funnel. Somebody went through all that secret word, everything. During the interview, it was me, Ronick, and Chris.
Hmm.
And it was my turn to ask a question. And I said, "Oh, so from what did you do from 2002 to recently? Because that was what was on his resume. Like,
Hmm.
what did you do prior to 2002?" And he got kind of flustered and didn't really know why I'm asking that. And it turns out Ronick actually told me during the interview, I think that's a typo. He meant to put 2012. That's the only way that would make sense.
Mm.
And then the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you know what? Totally missed that. I don't know how that happens." To me, you killed it. Like, that's an important typo. That's not like a you forgot a comma. That's like a
Yeah.
you skipped a decade of your career. Now I'm thinking, did you do it on purpose?
Yeah,
Did you just slip
exactly.
it in there? So what
Yeah.
typos for you, or is that like
That's a
an instant?
non-negotiable. Yeah, instant. Not because I'm a stickler for that stuff. I mean, for me, honestly, like I am not the best person with grammar. I'm not, um, at all. But again, you need to take your time. Quality over quantity, always, always. Even in the industry, right? So if you are doing something small of a typo that guarantees your future, and you are that passive to where you miss it when you're only really having to look over maybe what, one page, max 3 pages. Imagine when you're having to go over hundreds and hundreds of STV documentation. That's a good indication of a CRA that's going to miss mistakes. A good
And this job
indication.
that we were hiring for was like, if you miss a comma, the ad won't work. Or if
Oh
you like,
no.
there's a little bit of like minor coding involved, like not real coding, but
Yeah.
very specific structured way to
Yeah.
have things. And so, to me, that was instant. Okay,
Yeah.
uh, have people review your resume for sure. Have Ashley do it. Online tools worth using? Do you have any?
Um, online tools, I guess.
Monica
Uh,
loves Grammarly.
oh yes. Okay, there you go.
I
Yeah.
mean, these days you got AI, so you don't
Yeah,
really need any of them.
you got it, yeah, and Word
Hemingway,
already kind of has it.
resume.io,
I
Teal.
mean, yeah, okay, so you could totally, for example, you can put it on ChatGPT and all these things. I mean, you can do that. But it comes back down to how structured is that? How robotic does it sound? Are you not lazy enough to just take that and run with it? Are you actually going to read it, review it, and try to alter it a little bit to give it a little bit of, your own personal flair? Because again, you go through, you need to look at it in the perspective of the person that's interviewing you. They go through so many resumes, and it's very rare that you're going to come across one that is extremely precise when you have no experience in the industry, right? Or you have 1 year experience, right? It's just not common. And so, and then even worse, that okay, sounds really great. Let's interview this person. They interview you, and you can't even states 5 minutes worth of verbiage that replicates what you put on your resume, right? And this is the other thing that I tell people. You want a great resume, of course, I understand that, but you need to be sure that you're going to execute just as well as you deliver on that paper, right? Because they're going to get a visual of somebody that is like, man, this person is like legit, like this is what I need. They have you in an interview and it's like, okay, yeah, I don't know if I want you to be the face of the company talking aside. It's like you don't even sound sure about what you're saying. You sound a little bit unconfident about the comment that you just gave me, right? And I say this because again, I've dealt with clients like this. I had one person who had, actually a few years ago he had finished the academy, and he had a really great background. And he said, you know what, I don't need to do a mock trial interview, blah blah blah. I think I'm good. I was like, okay, it's perfectly fine, but if you need me, I'm here. 6 months passed. He came back to me and he said, hey, you know what? I gotten 5 interviews, but I do not get past the first one. I don't know what's going on. I said, okay, well, let me see your resume. I'm like, all right, do you want to do a session? So we did. Within 5 minutes, I already knew why. It's because the way that he was presenting himself was nowhere at the level that his resume looked. And that's when we deep dived. I'm like, are you using systems? He said, yes. I'm Like, okay, well, that's fine. That's good. You're getting help. You're using resources out there that are there to help you. But then you didn't do the one thing that you needed to do, was to practice to ensure that you replicated what the resume was giving. You know what I mean? You can't do that. And so, these, I don't feel a lot of people think outside of the box when it comes to it. I think it's just very like 1, 2, 3 step, where it's like, okay, I have this done. I'm going to apply it to it. Now I wait, and then I'll get the interview. And if I do great, I'll move forward. There's so much more complexity to this process, and you won't know until you're on the other end or when you have experience, unfortunately. But that's why these podcasts are really helpful. This is why it's great to also have, either academy or get a mentor or training. And one thing I do want to say about mentorship, I really wanted to make a point before I ended here. The industry is going through a lot right now. A lot of people, are out of a job, and they have to be very specific, where they put their money, right? Please, mentorship is very, very important. But if you're paying for a mentorship, unless they are literally giving you a skill, right? Don't do it. Don't do it, because it's
Exactly.
just a hack. It's just a hack.
We say this all
Anybody,
the time.
anybody, yeah, if you want a mentor, watch these podcasts. Like, you're going to get an hours of time from people from all over the industry. Somebody
Yeah.
that just sits with you for an hour, that can only schedule you once every 2 weeks, that probably only knows that the scope of their role, and that's it. And you're paying them. Like, that's just a hack, and if it's free, then yes, it's another resource you absolutely should take into use. But if you pay for it, do not do it. Seriously, do not do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to get a resume writer, a resume person that helps you learn the process, how to write your own resume. So you pay once and that's it. Moving forward, you know the process, you know the skill, you understand the thought behind it, and you can do it on your own, right? Somebody
Yeah.
that says, I'll take your money, I'll do your resume for you, they just guaranteed you probably 2 years down the road, because you're going to get used to them, their skill set. You're going to need them again when you're redoing your resume. You didn't learn anything. You just paid somebody to do it
Yeah,
for you.
Jen Pager says scam, and that's what
Yeah.
I love about research is
Mhm.
when someone knows their stuff by talking to them.
Yeah.
Really quick, there's a rapid fire round, but there's a few
Yeah.
questions. Monica says, "Nice to see you,
Hi,
Monica."
Wendy. Hello.
ChatGPT to correct grammar, Canva. I saw a CV
Oh,
today
yeah.
that was beautiful. The one thing I gotta say about AI,
Hmm.
AI loves dashes,
Yeah.
and you can tell it to remove the dashes because, like, it's obvious if there's dashes
Hmm.
everywhere. No human being I know writes like that unless you write for Substack.
Yeah. And don't use a resume that has your photo. Big no no. Don't do that.
Really?
Yeah, you're
Ooh,
not supposed to. No, no, no.
I
It's
would have
considered.
been screwed back in
Yeah,
the
no, no.
day.
It's considered like bias, right? And so don't.
Bias.
Yeah,
Well,
because
I was doing this in like 2015.
yeah, no, no. Mm-mm.
I thought my mug could generate like more clicks. Right?
Well, it did generate a lot of clicks. You got here on YouTube and
No, but that's a
LinkedIn.
resume. I got like
Oh, the
I
resume,
don't know if
resume.
I
Okay,
got more
okay.
clicks.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, but yeah, definitely what I've learned over the years and what I still know as of today, I no photos on your resume.
no photo on resume.
Yeah,
Jen Pager says, "But I'm cute."
Jen, we know this. We know this. That is a dilemma,
Jen,
but
you don't need
I
a
can't.
job. You're an entrepreneur.
I'll
And
hire
by
you,
the
Jen,
way,
just because you're
listen,
cute.
I know this is resume for people looking for jobs, and I
Mhm.
know we need to start. I do think there's a world where we all have to learn to be entrepreneurs,
Oh
and that
yeah, for
world might
sure.
actually be today.
There you go. Yeah,
Rapid fire round, or
let's do it.
hold on. There was one more
I mean, I got the
good
time,
question
so
from
go for it.
Damien. Uh, Damien says, "Would you recommend taking courses on LinkedIn for exposure?"
Yeah. I mean, the thing with LinkedIn is, I mean, for multiple
You
reasons.
like that?
One, yeah, yeah, for for multiple reasons. One is because if you're not doing anything, learning something is obviously beneficial, something you add to your resume, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is the AI algorithm on LinkedIn obviously really likes and promotes pages further if they're utilizing resources and all the tidbits on LinkedIn. So yes, I definitely think you should. Yeah.
All right. I would have said no, but Ashley's the expert. I
I
know
mean,
I
hey,
trust her.
with different options, it's all good.
I don't know. I think LinkedIn's just trying to monetize.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, for sure. As long as you don't buy it, the free stuff. Don't buy
remember
the
when Harvard used to do like $30 courses from Harvard, and you can say
yes.
that you went
That,
to Harvard.
now they have it for free because they're trying to get a tax write-off.
Yeah, and Trump took that away. But I remember
And
like that Yale,
mhm.
Harvard, unless it's free. Like I remember in our CRA Academy, we did a introduction to
The
breast
breast
cancer
cancer,
class
yeah.
from Yale because the internship was breast cancer. But to pay for just the brand,
And the
everybody
certificate
knows you
too.
didn't go
I
to
Yeah,
Harvard.
yeah,
And
no,
you're not fooling anyone that you went
yeah.
to Harvard.
I think the whole like labels and titles thing is really losing its pizzazz. To be
Yes.
quite honest, I think nobody
It's all
cares
about
anymore.
outcomes.
Yeah,
Look at
exactly.
the leadership. Look
Can you
who's at the top
deliver?
and what they're exactly. What does
Can
the
you
FDA
deliver?
want? What did they say they want now? This dude, Prasad, who's a doctor, hemo-oncologist, so he's more qualified than anyone probably watching. He says in his book, way before he was head of CBER, they don't want just innovation for the sake of innovation. They don't want surrogate endpoints. They want cost-effective solutions for patients that actually impact real endpoints like survival, not just tumor shrinkage and things like that.
Process improvements. I mean, every job I've applied to, even before research, I've always made sure that my focus is process improvement because generally that's just what I do. Like with everywhere I go, I get irritated if I find things that are being done. I mean, you know, Dan, like, you do it with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, things that are done in an inefficient way, right? And you can save time, money, if all that stuff. So I always focus on that. And I'll give you guys a tidbit of one of the questions that I really literally like saw the interviewer's face go like, dang, you know. They asked
All
me
right, and
about
then we got rapid fire round.
Yes, yes. They asked me about the systems that I knew. And I said, because at the time I knew 7 systems, now it's way more. But at the time I said, I have a lot of system behind me. I know I listed all the systems, I'm like total of 7. And then I told her, I said, on average, it's once you hit a 3 to 4 systems, when you go through multiple systems, you start to realize that there's really not much of a difference other than the layout, but the overall process is pretty much the same. So once you've hit 3 systems or 4, you become not just easy to adapt, but you actually find better ways to improve it, thus making better opportunities for the company itself to be able to make more efficient progresses on the system itself with the vendor. And I said, I have 7 systems. I know I'm going to learn about 5 at your company. It takes about a month and a half for somebody to onboard and prep for the study, let alone the system that they have to do. You can already know that with me, you're going to have somebody learn the system within 2 weeks, maybe 3, cutting that time almost in half and ensuring that I'm going to be able to jump onto the study ready and prepped and run flying, as opposed to every other applicant here that maybe knows 3. I know 7, and I will be that much quicker and faster. And she just like, I was like, man, I had never heard anybody say anything like that. But it's because it's the truth, right? If you can see, if you have that exposure and understand how these things work, you don't have to go the usual ways and saying, well, I'd be a really great candidate. Blah, blah, blah. Talk about, hey, I know this is what you need. You need somebody to get on fast and to do the job right. And these are the pain points usually when it comes to hiring somebody. These are the pain
Yeah.
points that I'm going across through really quickly. So you want to kind of sell yourself in that way, you know?
I think there's something to be said about understanding and doing things outside of the system. So back to the taking courses on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, it shows that you are being proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, even though I don't think those courses actually teach you anything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some do. I haven't taken
I would say the only
any,
ones, Excel, that will pay back dividend like
which is
100% in
not
the
even going to
future.
be as skilled in like 5 years, maybe even already.
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree because our industry takes forever to get on board with things.
Sure. As
Forever.
somebody who's never learned Excel, I actually never even learned how to type, Ashley. Like, do you know I
Oh,
don't know how to type with 2 hands?
God damn.
Serious.
Really?
Yeah.
No. I was
I wrote a book, but I don't know how to type with 2 hands.
I do about 120, 130 a minute.
Oh, no, I'm fast with like, well, I do 2 hands, but like, I do with the same
I
finger. I don't
know.
go like all
I
crazy.
literally did this because I was joking with you.
No, I actually type like that. But I could go pretty quick. We can do a
Really quick.
contest.
It's like, when
We
you
should do one
text.
live. Remember
Hey,
when people
I'm
would put words per minute in their
in the
CV?
thing. Hey,
I'm old enough
I
to
love
remember.
those typing games. I would actually in school we would race for money, and I would always win.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with you, but I think I can get most people. I just know how you are.
I'm a
I
very
don't think I have a
competitive
chance.
guy. You know how.
Yeah, I don't have a chance in that against you. All right,
Who
rapid
knows? Who knows?
fire round.
Yeah.
Uh, True or false? Okay,
Hmm.
this one. A resume should be one page.
False.
Cover letters are dead.
False.
Gaps automatically disqualify you.
False.
You must list every job you've ever had.
False.
Internships don't count.
False. Huge false.
And you need certifications to land the job.
Not false, not true, but I would highly recommend it.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, I
Any
guess
more?
that's it. I guess that's it. I mean, I think there's going to be consolidation at the site level. I think the CROs are having an identity crisis as to who they are.
Yeah.
They're still hiring the core competencies like CRAs,
Hmm.
but they're definitely cranking out tools at the same time. Maybe you'll have less CRA burnout. I think what I'm trying to say in a nice way is I don't think there's going to be an improvement in the job market anytime soon.
I think the improvement where you will see a little bit more is on the site level.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just on the site level. And the thing is, I really like want to like give us a home run. Like when I was talking about the hierarchy earlier, titles and levels, it means nothing. I honestly feel at this point where I've already been at each level, it means nothing. And even more so when I get to talk to people, I've talked to all levels, all roles in each of those levels. I will say that my colleagues at the site level have not only been getting pay increased faster, promoted faster, and movement faster, and getting all that exposure than most of my colleagues in each of the other levels that I've been in, CRO and sponsor. So I do believe that site, especially depending on where you're at and how you approach, right? There's really a lot of room for growth there. And if you are a
Yeah.
CRA or wanting to be a CRA, it's as simple as going to a site network or even just a general site and saying, hey,
Yep.
I'm willing to do this monitoring, have me monitor you for about 2 months or a month. And if you like my skill set, bring me on and I'm willing to
Yeah. Look what
negotiate with
Jen
them.
Pages did. Jen Pages created a QA service. I mean,
Hmm.
she's the one. She's like a perfect example. We should have her on
There you
one
go.
of these days. Again, have her on again for like the third time. Although,
Yeah.
fun fact at SOS, our podcast with Jen Pages got screwed up.
Why?
Shout out to Jair. I don't know. He was messing around too much.
Oh,
That was day one before, like, it was the pre-date,
before it
like
got
not even the.
crazy.
No,
Before it
no, it
got
was
crazy.
like the day before the conference started.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
interviewed Jen and her brother Felix, and
Hmm. Yes, there were a
yeah,
lot
they
of
screwed up the
fun.
audio.
We need a party again, Jen, with your brother too.
Yeah,
But
but yeah, I think that's when I said I think everyone needs to learn a little bit of entrepreneurship. I think that's. I don't think you need to can rely on the system anymore to take care of you,
no, you shouldn't. You definitely shouldn't.
and the system never cared about you to begin with.
Yeah, no, no. You definitely should always. Um, I also think like finding purpose, like what we've done with SOS and LACR. I will say that I love my job and I enjoy my job, all my jobs that I've ever had. But what I get from LICR and SOS, like nothing compares at all. The kind of, purpose driven that comes behind it, and also the amount of effort that I'm willing to put into it is multiples, but because, part owner, but also because, it's coming full from source, right? From us and the pride we have behind it and everybody else that kind of crowds around it. It's just really, really great. So
Yeah.
you'll find purpose in that for sure, and make relationships and grow in the industry in a way, way different way than you would within an organization or company, right? So definitely something to think about.
I think that's it. I want to thank you,
Yeah,
Ashley, for this video slash pod. It's gonna go on YouTube tomorrow morning.
nice, nice.
And everybody go connect with Ashley. Her LinkedIn is underneath. And if you're listening, it's in the show notes. And if you're on Instagram, actually Margo, but just message me. I'll give you her Instagram
For sure.
and
I
go from
mean,
there.
there's not much on there, but yeah.
It's the DMs is open.
It's the
That's all
DMs
I'm
is
saying.
open. DMs is open for sure.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank you, Ashley.
Bye, you guys.